Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Demon Slayer. I can create my own breathing. Chapter 91. At this moment, all the children stood up. They didn't know how to persuade. They could only imitate their elder sister and bow to Minamoto Soda. Please, Mr. Minamoto, please save my sister. Gen Soda's face was full of helplessness. Even though he had just defeated Muzan, facing this situation, he could not cruelly cut off their hopes. Tears kept rolling down Tanjiro's face. Brother Yuan, please save Miduzi. I listen to you. Miduzi hasn't eaten people yet, right? She's not the one who deserves to die. Alas. With a long sigh, Minamoto Soda raised his arm high and slashed Miduzi's neck with a hand knife. The originally enlarged body continued to shrink at this moment until it returned to its normal size. The ferocious look on his face also weakened at this moment. Minamoto Soda also straightened up, but still did not let go of Miduzi's arms, keeping her in a sitting position. See if you can wake her up. If not, there is nothing I can do. Yuan Soda covered his forehead and gave everyone one last chance. Miduzi, it's me, I'm my brother. Tanjiro kept shaking Miduzi's body, trying to wake her up, and everyone gathered around her. Yuan Soda frowned at the distance between them, and kept thinking in his mind. Even if Miduzi bites someone at such a distance, he can intercept it, but by that time, there is no way to change the girl's fate. Gen Soda's heart calmed down little by little. He was not a cold-blooded animal, but once the evil ghost was left alone, causing more damage was a reality he was unwilling to face. Gen Soda secretly clenched the Nichiren blades in his hand. If you really can't help it, I will let you go without pain. Kamado's face was gentle and she kept shedding tears. She held Miduzi's face and said, Miduzi, I am Mom. Do you still remember us? Miduzi, wake up quickly. Miduzi, wake up quickly. Sister, wake up, you promised to have a snowball fight with me in the snow. Sister, you haven't tied my hair for me today. Wake up quickly. Facing the gentle shouts of the crowd, the ferocious girl's face gradually softened, and a tear fell from the corner of her eyes. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops, Miduzi started to cry. Tanjiro, mother. The fangs in Miduzi's mouth had completely disappeared at this moment. She kept crying, and her body continued to shrink until she was as big as the smallest Hanako in the house. Gen Soda looked at Miduzi in shock, hesitated for a moment, and then let go of her wrist. Miduzi fell into Tanjiro's arms, and Tanjiro hugged Miduzi and cried. I'm sorry, Miduzi, it's my brother's fault. Hey, the matter is not over yet. Yuan Soda still broke the touching moment for everyone. Evil ghosts will not turn back into humans at will. If you really want your sister to turn into a human again, you need to find your own way. And you have to remember one thing, your sister can't touch the sun now, otherwise she will turn into ashes. If you want to take her out, remember to protect her. Gen Soda put away the knife and stood, holding his chest and watching a scene of family fun. Fortunately, he arrived here in time, and thanks to the evil bat that kept flying towards this place, otherwise he would have no way of knowing that Muzan had arrived and was ready to massacre everyone. At this time, rapid footsteps suddenly sounded outside the door. Yuan Soda calmly held down the handle of the knife, but did not show much panic. After all, the sun had already come out, and it was impossible for an evil ghost to appear. Are they from the guard? Or from the Demon Slayer squad? Gen Soda was thinking about how he should communicate with others if he was a policeman. A familiar figure appeared in front of him. Brother Giyu. Yuan Soda's voice was full of surprise. After more than 10 days apart, the sword power on Tomioka Giyu has obviously become more condensed. It seems that everyone is busy. Minamoto Soda showed a warm smile. Tomioka Giyu also showed a trace of surprise on his face and put on a slight smile. He was also happy to see Gen Soda here. Soda, was it you who caused the fight outside the door? Tomioka Giyu meant something. Then the whistling wind came from the door again, and a familiar voice complained, Giyu, your speed is too fast. Why are you like that guy Soda? You don't wait for us. This is, Soda. A soft voice filled with surprise sounded. A petite girl stood at the door and was brushing the snowflakes off her body with her hands. Makomo, Sabito, you are all here. The joy on Gen Soda's face became even stronger. Nothing made him happier than seeing his relatives again after the war. Come in and sit down. Yuan Soda moved a few steps back, and the other children obediently gave up their seats. Oh, I forgot to introduce you. Gensoda slapped his forehead and pointed at the few people who had just arrived. These are my teammates in the Demon Slayer Corps. Then he pointed at Tanjiro and the others. These are the Kamado family I saved last night. When the two groups of people greeted each other, Makomo suddenly twitched his small nose. Her brows furrowed, as if she had discovered something. Seeing Makomo like this, Giyu and Sabito immediately held down the hilts of their swords and assumed a fighting stance. Since Minamoto Soda left, several people have continued to carry out the tasks assigned by the Lord. Compared to the first time they went on a mission, they have become very close to each other. It may also be the reason why the unlucky guy Gen Soda left them. None of the evil spirits they met even reached the lower level. While continuing to complete tasks, other members of the Demon Slayer Corps gradually became aware of the reputation of their Kurikage team, especially Tomioka Giyu. With the breath of water, he has gained a great reputation in the team. Everyone is very optimistic about him, thinking that he is the first person who can take over the title of water column from his master. At this moment, Tomioka Giyu was not wearing the aqua blue haori brought from Sagiri Mountain, but a dark red haori. The expression on his face became very calm, and he already had the bearing of a master. Makomo's nose kept twitching, and finally he cast his gaze on Yadoko, who was being held by Tanjiro. There was also a look of hesitation on her face, and then she looked at Minamoto Soda naturally. She believed that with Minamoto Soda's strength, it was impossible not to discover the possibility of Miduko turning into an evil spirit. Sabito and Tomioka Giyu followed Makomo's gaze and looked at Mizuko, and Tomioka Giyu frowned and drew out the cool Nichiren blades. The 4 words, Demon Slayer, engraved on the blade shine brightly under the light. A touch of pure water spread in this space, and almost at the same time, Tomioka Giyu's Nichiren blades lit up. Tomioka Giyu took a step forward and protected Makomo and the two behind him. He faced Yadozi on the ground with a knife and frowned. What's going on? Tomioka Giyu obviously asked Minamoto Soda, with a trace of doubt on his indifferent face. Gen Soda covered his forehead. Well, how should I put it? Although she is a ghost, she has never eaten people, and she recognized her family and did not lose her mind. Minamoto Soda pointed at Yadoko, who had shrunk to the size of a child and was sleeping peacefully in Tanjiro's arms. It's under control for the time being. Yuan Soda nodded to the 3 of them and used his identity to vouch for Miduzi. Tomioka Giyu was obviously shaken once. He put away the Nichiren blades, but there was still a faint doubt on his face. In all his years of experience, he has never seen such a case. But Giyu had 100% trust in his junior brother, so he did not question his decision, put away his knife and knelt down. Now that Soda has spoken, I trust your judgment. The originally tense atmosphere dissipated because of Minamoto Soda's words. Makomo also knelt down and looked curiously at the shrunken Miduko. She had never seen such a thing, but she also had 100% trust in Gensoda. It had been a long time since she had seen Gensoda. Makomo's face was red, as if he was sweating due to the heat of the journey. Well, what exactly happened here? Can Soda tell us? Makomo sat on the ground with his legs slanted, exposing his slender legs under his skirt. Most girls here still prefer to wear skirts, even in the cold winter. The ghost swordsman who has mastered the breathing method has even more privileges. Yuan Soda glanced at his calves, which were as white as jade lotus roots. A touch of warmth climbed onto his cheeks, and he moved his eyes away like a thief. He cleared his throat and repeated what he had just told Tanjiro to everyone, adding at the beginning what happened on Peach Island and the 2 children he met. Then he told the story of chasing the evil ghost, and then told the news about meeting Muzan at the door. At first, everyone just listened to Minamoto Soda telling the previous story with great interest. Makomo also had a hint of complaint in his eyes, as if he was complaining that Minamoto Soda didn't take her out. But when Minamoto Soda talked about meeting the ancestor of evil spirits, the Ghost King Muzan, in this place, everyone's goosebumps suddenly got up, especially Makomo, who was like a kitten with its hair exploding. What did you say? Did I hear it wrong? Sabito observed the people in the room boredly, not paying much attention to what Gensoda said. When Gensoda said the name that seemed to be taboo, his attention was suddenly drawn to Minamoto Soda's words. Did you just say the word Muzan? Sabito had an expression of disbelief on his face, staring closely at Gensoda's face, as if to confirm whether what he said was true. Gensoda nodded slightly, confirming that Sabito did not hear the name wrongly. Sabito's pupils shrank violently, with disbelief written all over his face. Makomo was even more shocked and speechless. He covered his mouth and his dark green eyes kept beating. Only Tomioka Giyu has the calmest expression, but the veins on the back of his hands indicate that he is not as calm as he appears. Then, Soda, please continue. Then Gensoda told the whole room about his battle with Muzan and his attack methods. Hanako and Rokuta on the side opened their mouths in surprise. Although they were still young, they did not understand how powerful Minamoto Soda was. But when Tokito looked at the war god like Minamoto Soda through the crack of the door, standing in front of their mother and asking her to retreat, Minamoto Soda's name was already etched in their hearts. When I first met Muzan, my heart was beating very fast. Just one look from him made me feel like I was being targeted by an extremely dangerous beast. Facing Muzan, I clearly felt the huge gap in strength, so I activated my strongest state as soon as I met him, and Yuan Kang paused. I triggered the thunder from the 9 heavens to help, but under such a powerful knife, Muzan's injuries healed almost instantly, which made people feel desperate. I used the breath of fire that I learned from the battle with Doma. After that, Muzan's injuries became more serious, but it was far from a broken state. But Yuan Soda showed a thoughtful expression. Muzan is an extremely dangerous character. The reason why I can defeat him is not because I am stronger than him, but for another reason. For example, the sun was almost rising at that time, and Muzan seemed to have a weird emotion when facing me. That emotion seemed to be fear, but it didn't look like fear of me. Yuan Soda explained his explanation to everyone, and bluntly said that if the night lasted long enough, he would definitely be the one who died. Under the shocked gaze of everyone, Gensoda felt happy. Although he was in a panic when he beat Muzan, if others saw his misery and fear, his evaluation of Gensoda became higher again. Sabito lowered his head in frustration. I thought I could surpass you during this period of time without you, alas. A sigh expressed Sabito's sadness, but his face quickly turned into a smile. You defeated Muzan. This is big news. This makes Master Linlong burst into tears when he finds out. Indeed, junior brother has made a big news this time. The shock on Tomioka Giyu's face dissipated and a smile appeared on his face. The Zuhei meeting that was held not long ago will probably be held again this time. Quote. Makomo, on the other hand, held up his little face, and his little face full of little stars was looking at Soda. Soda, you seem to have missed something. What? Yuan Soda looked at Makomo curiously, only to see himself reflected in the glass pupils. Where are the Mingzu's apprentices you met on the way and the kid with the wild boar mask? Hearing this, Gensoda slapped his head. That's right. How could I forget those 2 people? Damn it. The trace of pride in Yuan Soda's heart immediately stopped. These 2 people couldn't have met the evil bat ghost coming down the mountain. No, I have to go take a look. Minamoto Soda stood up to leave, but Tomioka Giyu stopped him. I'll go, junior brother, your current condition is not very good, now stay here with Makomo and the others to rest. Then he glanced at the girl in the boy's arms with a hint of intent. I will bring them both back. Tomioka Giyu walked out with the door, leaving behind the sound of howling wind. Soda then safely handed over the task to Tomioka Giyu. After all, he also believed that Tomioka Giyu was the strongest among them. If he hadn't joined, Giyu would have been promoted to the water column after a while. We have no way to repay Mr. Yuan for saving our family's life. We also ask Mr. Yuan to wait here and allow our family to cook you some breakfast. Kamado bowed slightly. Mr. Yuan must not refuse, this is the only thing to do with the kids. Kamado looked pleading, as if this was the only way she could repay Soda. Minamoto Soda knew that rejecting her would make her very sad. Yuan Soda hesitated. It was obvious that he didn't know how to refuse a mother's kindness. Then it's better to be respectful than to obey. Minamoto Soda clasped his hands in his fists. After so many battles, Minamoto Soda's physical strength had dropped significantly. Moreover, Gensoda glanced at Miduzi, who was breathing steadily. He couldn't let Miduzi stay in their house like this. He wanted to find a good home for Miduzi and see if she could be freed from evil spirits. Become human again. Tanjiro also stood up and bowed heavily to Gensoda. Mr. Gen, please take a rest here first. Tea and snacks will be served later. We really don't know how to repay your great kindness, but we still need the most basic things. After saying this, Tanjiro placed Yadozi on the tatami in the back room and covered her with a quilt carefully. He ran out quickly, running out the door one step ahead of his mother and started chopping wood. The other children followed their mother out obediently. When the girl with short black hair walked next to Makomo, she said, "Sister, go sit with your brother. It will be warmer in the room." Makomo smiled and nodded, then took out a pink kocho hairpin and clamped it on her head. "Thank you, little sister, this is a gift for you." The girl's little face suddenly turned red. She shyly hid behind Kamado and looked at this beautiful sister in a low voice. "Thank you, sister. I'll go help my brother." Then he left here as if he were running away. Kamado didn't have time to call Hanako, so he could only say to Makomo apologetically, "I'm really sorry, my children are so naughty that I made you laugh. Thank you for giving my daughter the hairpin. It seems she likes it very much." Makomo waved his hand quickly. "I made it myself. It's not a rare item. Children just like it." The smile on Kamado's face grew stronger. She walked out of the room and closed the door gently. "The 3 distinguished guests will wait in the room for a moment. I will go to the kitchen to cook. It will be ready soon." As the wooden door closed, the whistling sound outside the door was also muffled, leaving only the crackling sound of candlelight inside the house. Sitting opposite each other around the candlelight were the 3 of them, Minamoto Soda, and the younger Rokuta and Takeo. The 2 children looked at Minamoto Soda, who was like a god of war in their hearts, with bright eyes. It was not until they were embarrassed when they saw him that he spoke and quickly changed the subject. Brother Sabito, how did you realize that there were evil spirits here? Have you received news from the Lord?" Minamoto Soda asked. "I remember that I didn't have time to send a message to the Lord, but I didn't know you guys just arrived here. But it is also a very dangerous thing." Gensauda's expression became serious. "If you had come earlier, it would have been bad if you met Muzan." Yuan Kauta didn't say anything about the bad consequences, because it would have greatly damaged the self-confidence of several people. "Junior brother, I know, if we had come early, we would have ended up here." Sabito smiled casually. He knew that no matter how hard he tried in his life, he would never be able to catch up with his monster-like junior brother. He didn't care about being honest about his strength. "It's a coincidence that we got here. Originally, we were just performing a normal mission. On the way, we suddenly met the difficult Kaigaku who was in the same class as us. He told us about the evil ghost in the town. And," Sabito frowned, "he didn't tell us that part of the information about you for some unknown reason. He just told us that there were a lot of evil spirits gathering in the town, and then he said that he would go back and report back to the Lord. Then a few of us prepared to go to the town to deal with the evil spirits, but we found that we didn't even see one of the evil spirits," Kaigaku said along the way. Fortunately, Makomo's sense of smell is particularly sensitive. She told us that there was a smell of evil spirits on a road, so we followed it all the way. When we finally found it, it was already dawn. Sabito waved his hands helplessly. "It was only after I heard what you said that I figured out why I didn't meet a single evil spirit along the way. Good guy, it turns out you killed me all by yourself." Sabito had a look of resentment on his face. "I thought that kid from Kaigaku was deliberately trying to embarrass us. I also said on the way back that I must ask him face to face what happened when I got the chance, and then I bumped into you." After listening to Sabito explain the cause and effect relationship clearly, Minamoto Soda felt that it was fate. Thanks to Makomo. Gensoda looked at Makomo and praised. "No way, this is just my responsibility. Compared with these small things like mine, what Soda does is the real big thing. I don't know how big an earthquake it will cause after the news is spread back." Makomo smiled slightly. He tilted his head, looking very cute. "Haha, they are all great. Dong 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 dong." Tanjiro knocked on the door. As the wooden door was pushed open, Tanjiro carried something like a small coffee table filled with various snacks. "Mr. Yuan, this is a small snack prepared for you. Please try how it tastes." Tanjiro carefully placed the coffee table between Yuan Kautai and the others, and introduced the things on the table to them. This is seaweed roll sushi, which has a lighter taste. This is flying fish roe sushi, which is sweet and sour. This is Hanako's favorite. This one is. After the introduction, Tanjiro stood up and made a cup of green tea for each of them. The scalding hot water washed over the slender tea leaves in the quilt. After the tea leaves came into contact with the hot water, they surged wantonly and stretched their bodies. Soon, the fragrant smell of green tea filled the small room, making Gensoutai and others admire Tanjiro's superb tea-making skills. After Tanjiro said, "Please have dinner," he ran into the back room and came out holding a black boiler. Mom made sukiyaki for everyone. It should be ready in a while. Tanjiro arranged the boiler neatly and wiped the dusty areas with a towel. Tanjiro invited everyone into the back room behind him. Compared to the living room in front of the door, the back room looks like spring flowers are blooming. There is a square kotatsu in the side room without any decorative furniture. Compared with pure locals like Makomo and Sabito, Minamoto Soda seemed so ignorant, because he had never seen this thing in the previous world. Naturally, he didn't know that this thing was almost a well-known treasure in Japan, and its status in their minds even exceeded that of floor heating. On the kotatsu was an oven that had been wiped clean by Tanjiro, and on it stood the sukiyaki hotpot that Kamado Aoyeda had just made. The boiling stock in the sukiyaki hotpot was cooking various dishes. Cross-cut mushrooms, square-cut wild boar meat, pink and tender thick vermicelli and tofu, and a few slices of cabbage lying on the soup with undulating colors that are refreshing to the eyes. At this moment, Gensouta pulled Kamado Aoi and her child who were unwilling to go to the table. "Oh, it's okay. There are so many unwritten rules. It will be fun for everyone to eat together when the pot is cooked." Kamado had a look of reluctance because she felt she had lost her ability to entertain guests, but she seemed embarrassed when faced with Minamoto Soda's plea. "Oh, Yuan Soda could only use his trump card, just think of it as my request. I hope that everyone can have a meal together to relax their tired body and mind." Then, okay. Kamado nodded hesitantly and sat a little further away from the pot with his child. "Then let's wait for Giyu to come back and let's eat together." The air was filled with the laughter of the gathering, and Minamoto Soda told the embarrassing things about his childhood, slowly narrowing the distance between everyone. At this moment, it was 7 or 8 kilometers away from them. A boy with yellow hair was constantly complaining around the boy wearing a wild boar mask. "Will you lead the way? I clearly saw my brother Yuan going in that direction. How could you tell me with all your heart that the evil spirit is here? This place. You are known as the king of the mountain, aren't you? You can admit your mistakes no matter how hard you choose the road." "I'm almost freezing to death." Agatsuma Zenitsu hugged his body and shivered. He doesn't have the terrifying physique of Inosuke and Gensoda. Snowflakes continued to fall on Hashibira Inosuke's bare upper body, which was then evaporated by the temperature of his body and turned into drifting mist. Inosuke was also deep in thought at this time, and he didn't care what the yellow-haired kid said. Relying on the beast instinct he had trained in the mountains since he was a child, and the hunting talent he relied on for survival, he clearly felt that they were not pursuing the wrong place. But the facts told him that they did not find the Bat Demon and Yuan Soda. What went wrong? Could it be that I really went in the wrong direction this time? Hashibira Inosuke fell into thinking, but thinking was obviously not his strong point. He ignored Zenitsu who was chirping and complaining next to him. He imitated the behavior of a wild boar, got down on all fours, and began to search for the scent of the Bat Demon. Hey, are you listening to me, you stinking wild boar? I'm almost freezing to death." Agatsuma Zenitsu's body was trembling constantly, obviously frozen by the sudden heavy snow. He couldn't figure out why Inosuke couldn't feel the cold even without clothes on. Could it be that this is the real secret to exercise? Is it possible that he still needs to learn this training method? Agatsuma Zenitsu fell into desperate thoughts, imagining the scene where he would train without clothes in the future, and he got goosebumps. While Zenitsu was still fantasizing, a strong voice suddenly came from Inosuke. "Yao Shi, my nose is indeed right, we are on the right path." Inosuke, who was constantly sniffing on the ground, suddenly ran as if he had been beaten to death, as fast as a hunting beast. Hey, wait for me. Agatsuma Zenitsu's face turned pale. He didn't understand why Inosuke was still so strong. He was almost exhausted. Where are you going? Wait for me, Suke-ni. Agatsuma Zenitsu followed Hashibira Inosuke's steps step by step. Finally, just before Agatsuma Zenitsu was about to freeze to death, he followed Inosuke. At this time, the two were standing at the entrance of a cave. He did not see Inosuke stop and bump into him. Ouch! Agatsuma Zenitsu covered his head. Why did you make no sound when you ran, and now you don't make any sound when you stop? Are you looking for trouble? Do you know who my master is? Boarhead. Inosuke turned around and covered Agatsuma Zenitsu's mouth, making him speechless. Just as Zenitsu was about to struggle away, Inosuke pointed to the darkness deep in the cave and motioned Zenitsu to look there. I just said that I was not chasing the wrong place. Inosuke tried his best to lower his voice and pointed at the hanging black shadow. No, it wasn't a shadow. Zenitsu took a closer look and saw that the black mass was the bat demon they met before. But at this time, the size of the bat devil shrank by a circle, and the wings on its back also looked tattered. Zenitsu, who was sharp-eyed, noticed a black top hat hanging on the stone cone next to the evil spirit. Zenitsu looked at it inexplicably. I didn't expect this evil spirit to become classy after not seeing him all night. Agatsuma Zenitsu gently brushed off Inosuke's grass-smelling palm and held the handle of the knife carefully. Subtle electric current began to appear on his body. He didn't know if he could make another slash with his current physical strength, but he could at least ensure that he had the ability to protect himself. What should I say? Should we fight or withdraw? Agatsuma Zenitsu was just about to discuss such a profound issue with Inosuke when he saw Inosuke rushing forward, sprinting and yelling at the same time. Damn stinky bat, you made the king of this mountain chase you so hard, give me your life. The two knives in his hands were crossed and slashed towards the place where the bat was roosting. Breath of the beast, three fangs tearing fangs. Two white gusts of wind with strong murderous intent rushed straight towards the upside-down head of the bat evil spirit. The two crossed knives kept grinding sparks in the air and rushed towards the evil spirit like scissors. The bat demon finally woke up slowly after hearing Inosuke's voice. The radar ability of bats has always been very powerful, but the energy stored in the body of the bat demon was almost exhausted after being chased by Gen Soda for half a day, and it was not until Inosuke rushed in front of it that it reacted. The bat devil reluctantly opened its tattered wings and narrowly dodged the blow. The wing membrane still has a blood hole blasted by Yuan Kangtai, and it has no energy to make up for it for the time being. The bat demon that had just woken up still had a hint of panic in its heart. It thought that Gensauda was not dead at the hands of the adults and chased after him. Until it flew to another stone pillar and saw clearly that the only people coming were Inosuke and Agatsuma Zenitsu, the panic in its heart gradually relaxed, and then a sinister smile appeared on its face. It just so happened that it needed fresh flesh and blood to make up for the lost energy and blood, and just in time, a new human came to its door. Just when Hashibira Inosuke was about to charge again, the bat demon suddenly made an unintelligible and harsh squeaking sound. The sound waves continued to penetrate the entire cave, seeming to send some signal. Stop struggling to your death, I will give you a happy, ugly bat. Inosuke used the rock wall to complete another leveraging, twisting his waist and the white airflow began to circulate on the blade. Breath of the beast, fangs of Wu tearing wildly. Dozens of rays of sword light were fired towards the bat devil, and the rocks on the wall were continuously cut off by the sword light and fell to the ground with a rumbling sound. Just when the sword light was about to touch the body of the bat demon, a dull sound suddenly came from deep in the cave. There seemed to be something constantly scratching across the rock wall, rushing towards Inosuke's place in a hurry. Something as dark as a tide appeared. It was actually a whole swarm of bats about 3 inches in size. The blood-red eyes had a biting light, and they all let out ear-piercing screams. Sound waves filled the ears of Inosuke and Zenitsu, and for a moment they had to cancel the breathing method they were using. The strong vibration made them unable to concentrate on their breathing. The white light on Inosuke's body disappeared, and he was caught off guard and could only passively resist the swarm of bats, unable to attack the bat devil again. Agatsuma Zenitsu's body continued to explode with blood, his face became extremely pale, and he seemed to have no strength left. After the long journey, Agatsuma Zenitsu's physical strength has long been exhausted, and now he can only wield the Nichiren blades with all his strength, gradually becoming exhausted. A greedy smile appeared on the face of the Bat Devil behind him. He was happy to see the two of them running exhausted under his army of bats. This cave was a territory he found very early and claimed as his own. He did not know how many similar people he attracted here to become his arms. The two people who are pursuing him at this moment will naturally have to pay the price for their arrogance. The Bat Devil had already thought of using bats to consume their physical strength until he killed the two of them and then felt the pleasure of swallowing their blood. An intoxicated smile appeared on his face. If he could kill these two swordsmen related to Minamoto Soda, he could also make Minamoto Soda feel the anger. Just when the Bat Devil fell into fantasy and the two people in the cave were exhausted, there was an inaudible sound of footsteps outside the cave, and then the sound was like thunder, and a cold figure appeared in front of several people. A terrifying momentum rose in the cave. Breath of water shape of four tide of strike. An indifferent voice came from his mouth, and the entire space was filled with killing intent like a huge wave. Tomioka Gyu finally arrived here with his excellent observation skills. Nichiren Blades, who had just failed to use the blade at Kamado's house, was now frantically harvesting the lives of bats like a meat grinder. Each blow can take away the lives of hundreds of bats. Water splashed all over the cave for a while, and those who didn't know thought it was a flood in the cave. Inosuke and Zenitsu finally relaxed at this moment. They only felt the cool water flowing through their bodies, and the stench of the bats surrounding them, as well as the dangerous atmosphere with murderous intent, all disappeared. It only took a few minutes for Tomioka Gyu to kill most of the bats. Only then did the bats realize the power of the man, and they dispersed like birds, flying into the cave and shivering in the pure darkness. The evil bat ghost who was having a huge dream just now was like a bucket of cold water poured on his head, and he put away the evil aura of, "I am the best in the world, and you will all become my food." He shrunk his size and tried to escape to the bottom of the cave. But a flying Nichiren blade stuck straight into its worn wings, cutting off its last thoughts and its last hope of escaping. "Is there nothing wrong with you two?" Tomioka Gyu said to the two of them coldly, with a little surprise in his eyes. Having been on the battlefield for a long time, it was not difficult for him to discover the potential of the two of them. The boy wearing the pig head mask was full of savagery, and the various minor wounds on his body were a reflection of his strength. Zenitsu, who was holding the handle of the knife tightly, was swaying, but refused to fall down. The starting position of Breath of Thunder was clearly visible. Tomioka Gyu nodded silently, seeming to recognize the strength of the two. "It's okay, you." Agatsuma Zenitsu sighed, and the big stone in his heart finally fell at this moment. Even though he didn't know the person in front of him, the powerful aura and the Nichiren blades that marked his identity were enough for him to have enough trust in this swordsman. "My name is Tomioka Gyu. Junior brother said that you two did not follow his footsteps. He was afraid that something would happen to you and asked me to come out to find you." Tomioka Gyu said calmly. "Ah, he's Brother Yuan's senior brother. Nice to meet you." When Agatsuma Zenitsu heard that it was Brother Yuan who sent him to rescue him, he felt so happy that he dragged his tired body forward and shook hands with Tomioka Gyu. "Shake hands. Brother Tomioka, thank you for your help. I wonder where Brother Yuan is now." "He is in a house on the top of the mountain. I will take you up now." Hashibira Inosuke, who was rescued, didn't know how to express his gratitude. He stretched out his hand and shouted, "Hey! Are you that Gensoda's senior brother? Why are you two so strong? Is there any secret?" Tomioka Gyu ignored the pig-headed boy's question, saying, "Follow me," and then disappeared into the cave with a light step. The wooden door was opened again. Tomioka Gyu had a trace of snowflakes on his body, and there were two boys behind him. "Brother, you are finally back." Gensoda stood up and nodded to Tomioka Gyu, then turned his attention to the two people behind him who were not in good condition. Not bad. You two have actually kept up with me. You are indeed the swordsman I like. I think you will definitely pass the next selection." Gensoda smiled and brought the two of them to the dining table. He kept looking at the two of them. Tanjiro looked at the strange two people with an expression of Su degree D degree winking face. "Su, why did you bring a wild boar here?" Each of these two people looks weirder than the other, a mental young man with yellow hair, and a shirtless young man wearing a wild boar mask. What kind of strange combination is this? At this time, Tanjiro did not know that these two strange-looking teenagers would become his strongest arms and inseparable partners in the future. The three people who met for the first time did not feel that each other was a teammate they could rely on. Why does it smell so good? Is this the food prepared for us? Gensoda, you are very nice. I really saw you right. Inosuke laughed wildly. Why are you smiling so horribly? Don't scare the children. Gensoda covered his forehead and began to think about whether it was a wrong choice to bring Inosuke up. These two are the more promising children I met during the trip. This time I will take them to Sagiri Mountain for training, and then participate in the next Fujirai Mountain selection. Gensoda introduced the two to everyone, but Tanjiro's eyes flashed as he listened to Gensoda's words. He stood up, arranged the seats for the two of them, and then asked Gensoda in a low voice, can I participate in training with them? I also want to become an indomitable swordsman like Brother Yuan. Gensoda held his chin with his hand and exchanged a look with Tomioka Giyu. It should be possible, but I want to tell you in advance that killing evil spirits is not just a child's play, it is very dangerous things. At this point, Gensoda put away the casual look on his face and said seriously to Tanjiro, you have to think about whether you are ready to die at any time. Tanjiro bowed respectfully to Gensoda, and then looked at Miduzi who was still sleeping in the room, with determination on his face. I think I'm ready, thank you Brother Gen for making it happen. Kamado kneeling sitting aside had a look of unbearable expression on her face, but she knew clearly that her son was looking for a way for another child to turn back into a human. Even if it was cruel, she could not refuse Tanjiro's request to become a swordsman. At this moment, she could only greet everyone with a forced smile. Let's eat, the food in the sukiyaki pot is already cooked. Then a few pairs of chopsticks were put into the pot, tofu, cabbage, and fish were picked up, and the sauce made with eggs was poured on them and swallowed in one gulp. The warm feeling instantly dissipated the dampness and coldness of the heavy snowfall outside the wooden door all night. The feeling of happiness and satisfaction burst out from the inside out, and the taste of the food and egg liquid in the mouth mixed gently until it spread throughout the body. The happiness will increase exponentially with every bite, as if it will rush into the chandelier like steam rising from the pot, until it fills the entire small room. Hashibira Inosuke. This thing is really delicious. The first person to speak was Hashibira Inosuke, who grew up in the mountains. For him, the main function of food is to fill his stomach. Growing up in the mountains, he had never eaten such delicious food, and the handsome face under the pig head mask shed tears of emotion. I tasted what my mother made. Did you make this, Auntie? It's really delicious, Sabito said with a rosy face. For the people who had been chasing him all day, there was nothing better. There is nothing more soothing than a steaming hot sukiyaki pot. Really, as long as it's delicious, I'm worried that you guys won't be able to get used to it. Kamado Kwaiji knelt on the ground, covering her mouth with a smile. She just gently poked her chopsticks in the bowl and looked at the table quietly. Everyone was devouring it. Maybe it was because of an illusion, or maybe it was because he had experienced a life and death crisis. Looking at the people who were constantly fighting, Kamado once again felt the lively atmosphere at home. Speaking of which, have you always lived on this mountain? Have you ever encountered something like last night before? While eating sukiyaki, Minamoto Soda raised a topic, and the subject of the topic was the most terrifying person. Evil incident. After getting along for a short period of time, Minamoto Soda thought that he had figured out the situation of Kamado Aoi's family clearly, but he still had a faint doubt in his heart, and that was why Yadozi could survive in Muzan's hands. Calm down. Could it be that Muzan intended to turn Miduzi into a demon so that they could kill each other? But why did Miduzi still recognize her original family members and resist biting humans after becoming an evil spirit? Is it really due to physical condition? There are many doubts here, which makes Yuan Kangtai puzzled. At this time, Rika, the youngest, took a piece of green dish and handed it to Gensoda. Brother, eat this. This is my sister's favorite wild vegetable. Her cherry blossom-colored eyes were full of the innocence and cuteness of a child, and she seriously wanted to give what she thought was delicious to her kind-hearted elder brother. Ow ow, thank you, little sister. Yuan Kangtai threw the wild vegetable into his mouth smoothly, still thinking about those questions. At this moment, Yuan Kangtai didn't know that the wild vegetable he had eaten would grow up at some point in the future, to unexpected effects. It was at this moment that the gears of fate began to turn. Kamado Aoi did not interrupt her child's act of picking up food for Gensoda, because during this time she was also thinking about the question Gensoda asked, and then finally recalled the Demon Slayer squad in the depths of her memory. There should be. But that was a long, long time ago. Kamado seemed to be lost in memories. My husband once told me that their ancestors met a swordsman here, and the swordsman also lived here for a while. It is said that the swordsman's hair is as red as flames, but he seems to be hiding a lot of things in his heart. Oh, it turns out we were really destined. Makomo put his chopsticks on the wooden bowl and listened quietly to Kamado Aoi's narration. Did that swordsman leave any message for you? Or something passed down? Yuan Kang asked curiously, not knowing what kind of swordsman his ancestors met. Could it be Zhu? This, my husband told me that their ancestors once begged the swordsman to pass on the inheritance, but the swordsman refused, and in the end only a dance for sacrifice was left. Kamado said. That's it. Yuan Kauta became discouraged all of a sudden. He thought that what he passed down was a peerless sword move, so he could learn it if he had the chance. Speaking of which, Yuan Kangta tapped the bowls and chopsticks lightly, signaling everyone to look at him. I don't have any ideas on how to treat Miduzi, but I think my master might you'll know a little more. I think we can send Yadozi there. It just so happens that Tanjiro needs to be there for Demon Slayer training. Tanjiro's face suddenly showed a look of hope. This was the best good news he had heard today. Great, Miduzi will be saved. Then he looked at Yuan Kauta with a grateful face. Brother Yuan, you have helped our family so much, I really don't know how to repay you. Minamoto Soda waved his hands indifferently. These are all small things. Remember to train well in Sagiri Mountain in the future to make yourself stronger and save more people from the evil spirits. Muzan on the other side came to a secret stronghold. After shaking his wrist slightly, a bloody bell appeared. Muzan gently shook the bell, and a crisp sound rang out. After a while, two strange-looking evil spirits appeared on the ground and lowered their heads respectfully, waiting for Muzan's instructions. Muzan casually drew a picture in the air with blood. The picture showed a handsome boy holding a knife. Remember this person's face. Your next task is to assassinate this person or kill someone who is closely related to him, people. Remember not to disappoint me. Muzan put away the blood in his hand and disappeared in a flash. Yes, I will not disappoint you. After Muzan's breath completely disappeared, the two evil spirits on the ground dared to raise their heads and discuss in a low voice. Shadow Ghost, do you remember what the boy looks like? The evil ghost with gray hair and thin body said. His voice was like a dying tree, and a breath of death wrapped around him. The person called Shadow Ghost looked like a middle-aged man. His whole body was shrouded in a layer of gray mist, and his eyes were closed. He made a gesture of clasping his hands together. A strange aura rose up from his body, and then slapped his palm on the ground, forming a strange pattern with several ink-black shadows constantly twisting in the pattern. Shadow Ghost lowered his head and muttered a few words silently. The shadow disappeared from the ground and merged in all directions as if it had received instructions, like a servant faithfully executing the orders given by his master. Vampire Art Shadow Pursuit. The pattern on the ground disappeared, and Shadow Ghost stood up. I have arranged the tools for the pursuit. I believe we will soon find the person you want us to kill. The thin evil ghost hugged his chest. Well, after doing this, we will definitely be appreciated by the adults. I wonder if the adults will give us blood again. Tisk tisk, I haven't tasted that wonderful taste for a long time. Quote. The shadow ghost tapped his fingers lightly and frowned as if he was controlling the flow direction of the blood ghost technique. He said casually, don't be too happy too early. Your Majesty hasn't summoned ghosts like us in the escort team for a long time. The goal this time is it might not be easy to deal with. Hey, are you too timid? Aren't we killing these ghost swordsmen just like killing chickens? I think you are scared out of your wits by the man named Rengoku Kyujiro. The contemptuous voice recounted the shadow ghost's pain, not caring about the strength of the person he was about to chase. The veins on shadow ghost's head suddenly popped out, and then disappeared quickly. He said calmly, you don't need to remind me of this. One day I will cut off his head to prove my strength to you. Haha, I'm kidding. Who in the escort team doesn't praise you, Shadow Ghost, for being such a hero? You should change your name to Running Ghost. I don't know who was chopped by Shinazugawa and stumbled back with only one hand left. How could he have the nerve to talk about others? Shadow Ghost mocked lightly. Baga. Junichiro's face was furious, as if the Shadow Ghost had penetrated the deepest part of his heart. It was an accident. I'll say it again. My strength was not fully demonstrated. Next time he will die because of me. In hand. I hope so. The Shadow Ghost is like a pool of ink, hiding in the deepest part of the city, seeming to turn into the shadow of the city, coveting the humans living in the city. Junichiro snorted disdainfully and disappeared instantly. There was a constant crackling sound in Tanjiro's yard, which was the sound of chopping wood. Tanjiro was cutting firewood in the yard, and wanted to prepare more firewood to save his mother and the others from using it. Then Hashibira Inosuke started yelling for him to help and not to eat other people's things for free. Agatsuma Zenitsu was not to be outdone, and the two began to compete. The axe on Inosuke's side made a whistling sound as it sliced through the air, while Zenitsu on the other side seemed slower. Tanjiro stood aside and looked at them with envy. Gensoda calmly touched Tanjiro's back, holding a cup of steaming tea in his hand, and suddenly said, "Are you envious that they are so powerful?" "General, brother Genitsu, you're here." Tanjiro was startled by the sudden sound, and then scratched his head. "That's probably it. Forget about Inosuke. Why is even Zenitsu so strong? He's obviously bigger than I'm still young. Because they are swordsmen. After they can use the breathing method, their physical fitness will increase exponentially. It is normal for them to be stronger." "What is breathing method?" Tanjiro's eyes were full of curiosity. "Ahem, well, breathing technique is a physical technique that can strengthen the human body and allow us to fight against evil spirits." "Can I learn too?" "Of course." Gensoda looked at Tanjiro up and down, looking at the brightly colored mark on his head. Such marks reminded him of the changes in his body when he hit Muzan. He silently touched the lotus on his chest and said, "Everyone can learn the most basic breathing techniques with diligent practice, and of course you can too. May I take the liberty of asking what the mark on your head is?" "Oh, you're talking about this." Tanjiro touched the large red mark on his head. "This thing was there when I was born, and it was also on my father's head. Mom said it might be something like a birthmark, right? It's ugly." No. Yuan Soda waved his hand, and then unbuttoned one of the buttons on his collar, revealing the lotus mark on his chest. "I also have something like this on my body, so I'm curious." A strange lotus pattern flashed before Tanjiro's eyes, and Minamoto Soda had already closed his clothes. "Anyway, I believe that you can become a powerful ghost swordsman with your abilities. Work hard when you get to Samagiri Mountain." Bar. "I will work hard to become stronger, and I must turn Miduzi back into a human." Tanjiro nodded vigorously, his young face full of determination. "It's getting late, it's time for us to set off." Yuan Kengta took a sip of tea. The bitter and fragrant taste went straight to his forehead, and warmth flowed through his body. He praised, "It's really good tea. Hey, Zenitsu, Inosuke, it's time for us to set off." Gensoda looked at the two people who had already chopped all the wood and were going to continue the competition in the forest, covering his forehead. "Remember to put the wood in a dry place, don't Jean got wet from the snow." Then he turned to look at Tanjiro. "Go and say goodbye to your family. I don't know when I will come back after I go out this time." Watching Tanjiro run back to the house, Makomo suddenly appeared next to him holding his little hands. A pink scarf was hung around his neck at some point, with a cute little bear embroidered on it. "Are you really going to let him go to Sagiri Mountain for training? In fact, we can take him to investigate the matter of Miduzi." "Let him go. A young man needs to be constantly beaten and trained before he can finally grow into an indomitable adult. He must have a lot of hatred for Muzan. After all, the whole family almost." Yuankang Taiyan went away. "What's next?" As he spoke, his eyes fell on Makomo's scarf. "Where did the scarf come from?" Yuan Kangtai asked curiously. "Kamado's mother made this for me, saying it was a good way to keep me warm when winter comes." Makomo rubbed the little bear on his scarf, his eyes full of love. "Well, it's quite warm." Gensoda gently touched Makomo's rosy face and said without changing his expression. "Makomo, who was wearing a scarf, felt his face heat up instantly, and his mouth felt dry for a moment. Yuan Soang gave Makomo a funny look and handed over the tea in his hand. Are you thirsty? Do you want a sip? Makomo's face turned even redder. Under Gensoda's playful gaze, she reached out and was about to take the teacup when Tanjiro ran out with a bamboo basket on her back. Brother Yuan, let's go. Hey, Sister Makomo, are you thirsty? I'll get you a glass of water. Tanjiro asked understandingly. Ahem, it's true. You go ahead and I'll help you carry Miduzi. Yuan Soda changed the subject awkwardly. No need, Miduzi has become smaller and lighter. I can just exercise. Tanjiro smiled heartily, not understanding what happened at all. When he first entered the back room, Miduzi was sitting on the bed listening to Kamado talking to his younger siblings. Tanjiro walked in with a bamboo basket on his back. Mom, we are leaving. I will take Miduzi with me to the place where Brother Yuan mentioned to train. I will definitely find the idea to turn Miduzi into a human. Kamado reluctantly let go of her daughter's hand and nodded. I know, you must pay attention to safety. He got up and found some soft cotton balls in the cabinet and put them into the backpack. Miduzi, can you come in here? We'll be leaving soon, and we have to be on our way during the day. Tanjiro held the bamboo basket and looked at Miduzi on the tatami. Miduzi nodded, and then suddenly crashed into the basket, exposing half of his body. Brother, this basket is too small. My sister can't get in. Kamado said. Ah, is that so? Tanjiro showed a thoughtful expression, and then seemed to think of something. Miduzi, didn't you become as big as an adult woman last time? Can you become smaller in the opposite direction? Yadozi seemed to understand what Tanjiro meant, and instantly shrank and hid in the backpack. Awesome, Miduzi, you are so awesome. Tanjiro stroked Miduzi's hair happily. Wow, my sister has become as big as me. Kamado Hanako kept circling around the bamboo basket, looking at her shrinking sister with curiosity on her face. Kamado Kwaiji wrapped the bamboo basket with a piece of black cloth, this way the sun won't be exposed to it. Please be careful on the road. Kamado touched Miduzi's hair and put a pink hairpin on her. Yeah, Miduzi couldn't say anything, so he could only nod. Tanjiro carried Miduzi on his back and walked out the door, and Kamado and the others followed. Seeing Makomo retracting his hand, Gensoda changed the subject. How are senior brothers and the others doing? Is there still the smell of evil spirits around here? I don't know yet. After I walked around with them, I didn't find any scent of other evil spirits here. Maybe they were just unlucky, Makomo said. It was Minamoto Soda who suggested that he patrol the area to see if there were any traces of other evil ghost activities. After all, the Kamado family still lives in the mountains. For their safety, they naturally have to conduct a comprehensive search of the neighborhood. That's all right, let's get ready. It's time for us to set off. I haven't seen Master Linlong for a while. I want to go back and give him a surprise this time. Gensoda recalled that emaciated figure in his mind. The red Tengu mask and the aqua-blue Haori seemed to be an indelible image engraved in his heart. Yes, we will see Master Linlong soon. He should be very happy to see us. When talking about Master Linlong, Makomo's tone became excited, and the joy on his face was clearly visible. Gensoda and the others waved goodbye to the Kamado family, and Tanjiro stood beside them with a bamboo basket on his back, waving goodbye to his family. There were tears in Kamado's eyes. She was worried about whether her son could endure the hardship of practicing swordsmanship, and she was also worried about whether her daughter could recover to her original state. Brother, when I grow up, I will definitely become a ghost swordsman. You must protect yourself and Sister Miduzi. Kamado Shigeru shouted. I will definitely do it. You will be the eldest child in the family after I leave, remember to take good care of them. Tanjiro waved reluctantly, and then his face became firm again. Tanjiro said silently in his heart, Miduzi, I will definitely turn you into a human. Be sure to pay attention to safety on the mountain. Let's leave first. As the howling wind blew by, everyone left here. Before leaving, Tanjiro reluctantly glanced at the people standing at the door waving to them, held back his tears, and followed them down the mountain without looking back. What Tanjiro didn't know was that under the influence of Gensoda, Kochu's wings began to flap. His destiny had also changed a lot, and his strength would improve very quickly. Where are Brother Gen, Brother Gayu and Brother Sabito?" Tanjiro asked. "They should be waiting for us at the foot of the mountain. They were patrolling the area near your home just now to see if there are any other evil spirits crawling around. If there are any, they will definitely deal with them on the spot," Minamoto Sota said. "Is that so? Everyone is so kind to us." At the foot of the mountain, Sabito was leaning against a big tree out of boredom, with a piece of dogtail grass he got from nowhere in his mouth. Gayu hugged him, holding a piece of bamboo in his hand, and watched several figures walking down the mountain. The leader is naturally Inosuke, who is wearing a wild boar mask. "Have you found any evil spirits nearby? You didn't take me with you this time. You are simply looking down on me, the king of the mountain." Tomioka Gayu lowered his eyes and seemed not to want to pay attention to him. He looked at Tanjiro, who was carrying a bamboo basket, and handed him what he had in his hand. "Let your sister wear this for a while to prevent her from biting." Tanjiro held the bamboo tube that was wiped clean on the back and felt fond of Tomioka Gayu. "Thank you, Brother Gayu. I'll let Yadozi take it with me." "Hey, why don't you answer my question? You're too arrogant, I want to challenge you," Inosuke yelled, feeling that he was not respected. "Okay, if you have enough strength, I'll give you some extra strength during training." Gensoda walked out with a smile, and then looked at Tomioka Gayu. Gayu shook his head, indicating that nothing happened. "In that case, let's go. Sagiri Mountain, we're here." Yuan Soda showed a warm smile again. It was getting late. In order to take care of Tanjiro and Miduzi's physical strength, Gensoda and the others stopped and walked to enjoy the scenery on the road. It can be regarded as some insignificant relaxation after joining the Demon Slayer Corps. The soil in the mountains is covered with thick snow, making a crunching sound when stepped on. At the foot of another mountain, everyone met a woman farming in the fields. Gensoda stepped forward to confirm whether the road leading to Sagiri Mountain was in front of her, the caution of a road-crazy person. After getting a positive answer, several people rushed up the mountain. The woman wrapped in a white headscarf looked at the group of people with knives in their hands or waists, not like children from ordinary families. But out of kindness, she still reminded her, "Are you guys going to go up the mountain tonight? It's getting late, and there might be wild animals or something on the mountain." "It's okay. There are so many of us. If we encounter a wild beast, we might even get a meal." Yuan Soda showed his white teeth in a smile that he considered friendly. "Recently, I heard that there are more people getting lost in the mountains. Be careful not to get lost." "I know, thank you." As they approach their second hometown, Yuan Kangtai and others feel better. Since passing the training of Teng Chishan, several people are either on missions or on their way to missions. It is self-evident that several people feel close to Master Linlong, who handed everything over to them without reservation. "We brought a lot of people with us this time. I don't know if Master Linlong will blame us." Yuan Kangtai held his head in his hands and looked at the three people who disliked each other. "No, it's not three people, it's just that Inosuke looks down on the other two people. After I pass the new training taught to me by Minamoto Sota's master, I can reach his level. Ha ha ha, I will become the Mountain King of Sagiri Mountain by then." Hashibira Inosuke's tone was arrogant. "Hey, can you respect Brother Gen, you damn boarhead?" Agatsuma Zenitsu shouted. "When I pass the training in Tengshi Mountain, I will definitely advance faster than you. I don't care whether you want to level up or not, as long as someone can fight with me. Xiao Wangmao, your strength is not very good yet, you need to practice more," Inosuke said with a nonchalant look on his face. "Who are you talking about, little yellow hair, boarhead?" "I'm talking about you. You are as soft and weak as a girl. How can you compare with me, the king of the mountain?" Tanjiro, who was carrying a bamboo basket, looked at the two people who kept arguing and smiled awkwardly. He thought to himself, "I have to train quickly when I get to Mount Saguro, otherwise I won't be able to keep up with their strength." The dark night covered the quarreling people like a curtain. Gen Soda looked up and saw a bright moon hanging in the sky. "It's getting late. Let's see if there is any place on the mountain where we can rest and take a rest. Tanjiro, you can let your sister out first." Gen Soda probed the mountain with his hands and carefully observed the mountain. After hearing this, Tanjiro obediently put the bamboo basket on the ground and took out Miduzi. Miduzi also had a happy look on his face. After all, it was uncomfortable to stay in the backpack all the time. Miduzi, who was standing on the ground, gradually returned to normal size. She stretched her body in the moonlight. The girl's soft back looked particularly charming under the moonlight. Agatsuma Zenitsu's eyes almost popped out of his head when he saw this scene. When he was at Kamado's house, he hadn't noticed Yadozi's appearance yet, but he didn't pay too much attention to it because of Minamoto Soda's instructions. Looking at Miduzi's lovely face at this moment, the Diocese temperament that had been suppressed for a long time suddenly came out. Miduzi-chan, why are you so beautiful? My name is Agatsuma Zenitsu. Can we be good friends? Agatsuma Zenitsu looked at Miduzi like a little seal. Miduzi grabbed Tanjiro's clothes in fear and hid behind Tanjiro, as if unwilling to say hello to this strange yellow-haired man. Hey, Miduzi, don't you want to be friends with me? Tanjiro-san, help me introduce him to Miduzi. Seeing that Miduzi ignored him, Agatsuma Zenitsu turned his attention to Tanjiro. Tanjiro held Miduzi's hand calmly, as if to tell her not to be afraid. Miduzi is still young, what are you doing? Then he looked to Gensoda for help. Seeing this, Gensoda coughed slightly and said seriously, Zenitsu, run quickly to the mountain to see if there is a lighted house. Let's go and repair it. Agatsuma Zenitsu's face suddenly dropped, and he reluctantly glanced at the lovely Yadozi. Lightning flashed under his feet and disappeared here. Hey, Huang Mao, wait for me, the Mountain King wants to go with you. A clear shout interrupted Zenitsu's steps. Zenitsu gave Inosuke a hard look before they both disappeared from sight. Let the two of them go so they won't encounter any accidents. They are still young after all. Makomo walked to Gensoda and said, why don't I follow and have a look? Well, you are very thoughtful. Then go and have a look. Maybe you can meet Master Linlong. Then Makomo flashed and disappeared here. Brother, how far have you practiced water breathing? Gensoda asked looking at the cold Tomioka Gyu. I've become proficient in everything, and I feel like I've entered a bottleneck period recently. Facing his most trusted junior, Tomioka Gyu didn't hide anything. That's it, Minamoto Soda showed a thoughtful expression. Senior brother, do you still remember the string-level Schwanten that you fed me when I fought Doma last time? Tomioka Gyu nodded. That was the first time they felt the pressure of death, and of course he couldn't forget it. Now, I seem to have gained incredible abilities. Yuan Kangtai turned his palm upward, and a white lotus flower appeared, exuding bursts of cold air. Wow, brother Yuan, what are you talking about? Tanjiro looked over curiously, and Miduzi behind him also stood up, seeming to be quite interested in the ice lotus. Tomioka Gyu and Sabito exchanged a look, seeing each other's shock. Junior brother, what are you? Sabito put away his careless expression, isn't this Doma's ability? How do you have Doma's ability? Tomioka Gyu also showed a surprised expression, and there was another thing beyond his knowledge. It's a long story. Yuan Kangtai's heart moved slightly, and the ice lotus in his hand started to spin. After a while, a lifelike ice sculpture appeared in front of everyone. It looked like Miduzi. Miduzi looked at the ice sculpture of himself in shock. His pink hands kept groping on it, and then he showed a satisfied smile. Junior brother, your ability is so cool, doesn't it mean you don't have to fetch ice water from the well in summer? You can just do it. Sabito became excited. Yuan Soda showed such an expression. Senior brother, I showed you such an awesome talent, but you actually asked me if I can make ice in the summer. I said I kill people without blinking an eye, but you asked me if my eyes are dry, right? Senior brother, is there a possibility that my ability is used to kill ghosts? Ow, I'm sorry, I can't help myself, just keep going. Sabito sneered, seeming to realize that he had indeed said the wrong thing. The last time I was lying down at the headquarters, the ice lotus seemed to have started to work. It was constantly freezing my injured body and speeding up recovery. It wasn't until I went on a mission to Peach Island that I discovered that I had awakened the ability to control ice. Although this ability cannot be used to directly kill evil spirits, it is very useful for changing the environment, delaying the footsteps of evil ghosts, and creating a closed place. Quote. Yuan Soda waved his hand gently, and the snow on the ground seemed to respond to the guidance of the ice lotus, and continued to turn into square snow bricks and piled up next to a few people. How about it? Is it useful? Sabito couldn't hide the shock on his face, and Tomioka Giyu wasn't much better. Junior brother. You are too outrageous. Are the Nichiren blades built by Mr. Tetsutora Taro so powerful? I'm really envious. Sabito kept poking the ice brick with his hand to feel its hardness. The cold touch on his fingers told him that it was real. I have to say, junior brother, your current strength is really terrifying. Doma was crippled by you, and this time you even scared Muzan away. It seems that the hope of the Demon Slayer corpse revival lies with you. Quote. It's not that exaggerated. No matter how strong these things are, they can't kill the real evil ghosts. In the end, they will have to use real swords and guns. Gensauda shook his head. He had seen Muzan's power and knew that this level was very important to him. It's simply not enough to watch. And I seem to have learned other things during the battle with Muzan. I will share it with you when I get to Sagiri Mountain. Gensauda touched the charming lotus pattern on his chest and showed a mysterious smile. Haha, then Giyu and I will be waiting for your good news. Sabito laughed and exchanged a look with Giyu. Since I met my junior brother, I was first involved in training to strengthen my strength, and then after the waterfall, I learned the normal breathing taught by my junior brother, and even learned the surge electric field that I had never heard of. Is there any good stuff next? Sabito felt a sense of happiness. Is this the feeling of holding his thigh? It feels so good. A dozen of these junior brothers are not enough for me. At this moment, a bright red firework suddenly burst out in the sky, which was the Demon Slayer corpse signal for help. Oops, Makomo and the others are in trouble. Yuan Saotai said calmly, and then his figure flashed and disappeared from this place. Follow me. I'll go see what's going on first. Yuan Soda's voice slowly disappeared. They looked at each other and immediately followed Yuan Soda's footsteps. A few minutes ago, on the way to the mountain, Zenitsu and Inosuke kept competing with each other on their footwork, but Zenitsu, who had not been exposed to training since childhood, was no match for Inosuke, a child who grew up in the mountains. Soon I was severely left behind. Inosuke stood on the steps with his hands on his waist and laughed at Zenitsu, ha ha ha. In the end, I, the king of the mountain, won the victory. Shao Itsuko, you can't do it at all. Agatsuma Zenitsu looked depressed, then pointed behind Inosuke. You win this time. Okay, look behind you, there seems to be a light on. Inosuke turned around and saw an ancestral hall. The pale yellow flames in the ancestral hall were beating constantly and were particularly dazzling in the dark night. Shinshi, I must have discovered the ancestral hall. Shao Yizi, you can go down the mountain and ask Gensauda and the others to come up and rest. Inosuke put his two swords on his shoulders and walked towards the ancestral hall. Even if the Nichiren blades were broken in half, he was reluctant to throw them away, which was a testament to his strength. When Inosuke reached the steps, he suddenly twitched his nose, and a pungent smell of blood came. The handsome face under the mask suddenly became serious, and he drew out the Nichiren blades with both hands and entered the fighting state. Agatsuma Zenitsu, who was called Shao Itsuko, was still criticizing this uncivilized boarhead, but when he saw Inosuke's appearance, he immediately put his hand on the handle of the knife. What's wrong? Zenitsu looked around warily. It smells of blood, come with me. Inosuke squatted down, then used his strength to fly towards the ancestral hall. The entrance to the ancestral hall is a small path paved with stones. Under the dim light, there is a scratch mark on the door of the wooden house. Inosuke's nose twitched, and the strong smell of blood came from the room, and Inosuke's face became serious. When Zenitsu caught up, he heard the sound of beasts biting from inside the door. Is it an evil spirit or a beast? Just when Zenitsu was about to take action to verify his conjecture, Inosuke took action first again. Facts have proved that when evil spirits appear, Inosuke is always at the forefront, so that those who come after him will have the courage to follow such people. The fragile wooden door could not withstand the slashing of Inosuke Nichiren blades. The wooden door exploded with a loud bang and saw shards flying. Inosuke slashed the still intact Nichiren blades towards the figure he saw. In the gap where Inosuke broke into the door, Zenitsu saw a muscular evil ghost squatting in the room, with blood dripping from his mouth and devouring the flesh and blood of the man at his feet. Unprepared, he could only roll to avoid Inosuke's killing blow. Who are you? How dare you break into my territory and disturb my eating? Are you impatient? The evil spirit raised his head and stared at Inosuke, his eyes full of bloodthirsty murderous intent and impatience of being disturbed. Who are you, and when did this become your territory? Inosuke was very unhappy after the knife was dodged. There was a lot of blood on the ground, several men's corpses were stacked up, and the fear before death could still be seen on their faces. This Rengoku-like scene made him feel uncomfortable. Kill me again, you bitch. I'll chop off your head and feed it to the dogs today. Breath of the beast, fang of foreshattering slash. Inosuke exhaled white mist through his nose, and the power was transmitted to every corner of his body with his breath, and then poured into the Nichiren blades under his guidance. Go to hell. The demon with short pale green hair immediately stood up. Looking at Inosuke's menacing sword, he realized that the person coming was no ordinary human. He twisted his feet to avoid the blow. But he couldn't match Inosuke's speed, and the Nichiren blades cut into his arm. You kid from the Demon Slayer squad, you're here to die again, right? His arm was cut by Nichiren blades and fell to the ground, but the evil ghost didn't take it to heart. The severed wound kept squirming, and a new arm was it grew like this. Then he heard the sound of thunder and lightning coming from behind. Is it thundering? The evil spirit had no idea that this would be his last thought before his death. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.